Hi everyone, I'm Katherine from katherinesewing.com. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3, a self-taught sewist, and I love creating historically inspired garments. This blouse that I have on is my latest creation. It's made of silk Noile, I think that's how you pronounce it, and it was completely hand sewn, and it was only made with 1 meter of fabric, which was really pushing it, but it was all the store had when I ordered at the time, so I just made it work. And it's also completely hand sewn, which actually, it was slower of course, but it made the learning process easier. For example, the collar, I've never sewn a real collar before, and when you're sewing anything by hand, you can always kind of figure your way out through things because you can do a lot more fine-tuned work by hand than by machine. In terms of details, it has these little puff sleeves, it has a yoke in the front and the back with gathers beneath, and it also has gathers at the waistband area, and a button placket with these cute silver buttons. If you're interested in seeing how I made this from drafting the pattern through to the final sewing, then please keep watching. And you'll also want to check out the blog post for this make, which will be on katherinesewing.com. Okay, keep on watching, guys. Okay, so here's my original concept sketch for this blouse. And now I'm tracing off my close-fitting bodice blocks and just altering them for the desired look of this shirt. The neckline, and now I'm adding the yoke line. And now for the lower portion of the blouse, I am slashing and spreading it to create that extra width that's needed for the gathers. And just cutting up my pattern pieces, as you can see, it was a very tight fit because I only had the 1 meter of fabric. Unfortunately, I had to use silk organza as the underlayer of the collars because I didn't have enough fabric. I'm just hand sewing the sleeves together here. I used French seams for this blouse, so every seam required 2 passes. Okay, now I'm gathering up the lower portion of the blouse to fit onto the yoke before sewing those together. I'm just pinning the shoulders together. And now I'm interfacing the waistband with silk organza before attaching those pieces. I'm altering the shape of the collars a bit. Okay, now I'm trimming the seam allowance before doing the second pass of the French seam. There we go, all finished. Okay, now I'm going to be sewing these collar edges together and turning them right side out. Just trimming and snipping those seam allowances so that it turns properly. And after it's turned, I'm just hand top stitching those around the edges. And just attaching the back collar to the front collar pieces. And flat felling those seams. Okay, now I'm gathering the waistline portion of the blouse so that it fits onto the waistband. Just trimming off some excess bulk there. And I hand sewed this on using a single pass. But I missed one spot, so I'm just going back and fixing that. And I sewed on the button pockets using the same method, just a single pass. Okay, now it's time to attach the collar. Just sewing that on right now. I was really improvising my way through this collar, so I probably did many things wrong, but I just trimmed the seam allowance and then top stitched it around the neck just to make sure the seam remained hidden. Okay, now I am pinning on the sleeves, the little puffed sleeves, and sewing them on. And there, the first pass of those sleeves is done. So I'm just completing the French seams now. Now the way I gathered the puff sleeves at the bottom is by simply sewing a hem and then adding a gathering stitch because I didn't have enough material to make cuffs. And now I'm just eyeballing the placement of the buttons, and I hand sewed these buttonholes. And now I'm attaching my buttons one at a time, marking the placement with a pin. Going in with my button. And usually you would use a toothpick for this, but I didn't have any, so I used a skewer to hold my stitches in place at the bottom. I finished my blouse. It came together pretty quickly. It took me about 4 days of just working on this in my spare time. And of course I was sewing it by hand, so if I'd been doing it by machine, it would have been that much quicker. It was all fairly straightforward. Like I said, when you're sewing things by hand, it's easier to figure your way out through things. I wasn't quite sure how to do the collar, and I actually prefer to figure things out by myself the first time I do it rather than trying to follow someone else's instructions. So that's what I did, and I think it turned out pretty well for my first time. I would definitely use this pattern again, I would say. There are just a couple changes I would make, I think. First of all, in the back, I think I would have it just a little less gathered because it's a little bit poofy back there. And in the front, the way I drafted the pattern was I actually had the waistband sitting just below the natural waist in order to give the shirt that blousey effect of having a little extra length. But I find myself kind of like pulling it down to decrease the poofiness in the front. I just think sometimes it can ride up and look too poofy. So perhaps if I made this again, I would have the waistband sitting right at the natural waist. So other than that though, it's turned out pretty well. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and please check out the accompanying blog post for extra details. That's on katherinesewing.com. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. That really encourages me. And subscribe to my channel because I'm a new channel and it's just so encouraging when I get new subscribers. I get really excited by it. So I'll see you all later, guys. Bye.